A few days ago, I showed you guys the total number of likes our channel has picked up in the month of July compared to Saints Now. And you guys answered the call, cutting the deficit down by nearly 1,500 likes. I'm not kidding. So make sure to like today's video. The month is running out. Let's take down Saints Now in subscribers and likes. What's going on, everyone? Coming up on today's show, we've got some Matthew Judon trade rumors to hit because the New England Patriots star pass rusher has been a little grumpy. I think that's downplaying it so far at training camp. So we'll talk about that and whether or not Atlanta could swoop in on a trade. And then we got another segment that I think you guys will really enjoy as well. So stay tuned for that. But let me give you guys the context on the Matthew Judon scenario and situation. So he is present at Patriots training camp, but he is not participating. It's your old-fashioned hold in. So he does not want to get fined. So he's going to be present as he is seeking a new deal, some type of change to his contract as he enters the final year of that contract. But yesterday at practice, Monday, he was, again, at practice, but not participating, not dressed. I mean, you can look at him actually right now. He's in the back with a red hoodie on, sitting on a whole bunch of pads and things like that. So eventually, Gerard Mayo strolled on over. There was some type of conversation that took place. The body language was very obviously frustration and discontent from both sides. And then Judon left practice. So I'll be the John Boy media of today's episode and say the conversation probably went something like this. Hey, Matt, if you're not going to dress and you're not going to put pads on and participate with the rest of us, we don't need you here. Get the hell out. I mean, maybe not exactly word for word, but something to that tune that had Judon leave practice. So if they don't even want Matthew Judon around, if he's not going to participate, don't you see how this could quickly snowball into, listen, this is becoming a bit of a headache. Let's just kind of get what we can from him because it doesn't seem like the Patriots have a ton of motivation to get a new contract done for him. And that's where you could see a trade happen. And if Matthew Judon does get traded, I swear to God, if the Falcons do not take down every cell tower in Foxborough, I mean, heads will roll. Like if Judon gets traded and it's not to the Falcons, I'm going to be pissed. I'll just put it bluntly like that. Judon the last 4 years, I mean, look at what he did from 2021 to 2022. Now, yes, last year, unfortunately, an injury cut his season short. The guy was averaging a sack a game. They play 17 of them. That'd be 17 sacks. 15 and a half 2 years ago, 12 and a half sacks the year before that. I mean, Matthew Judon, I'm not advertising as a top 5 pass rusher, but he'd be a big improvement to the Falcons defense, would he not? Look at where he ranked from 2019 to 2022. Remove last year because he only played in 4 games. That's not really fair to him. He's 5th in sacks. He's tied with Aaron Donald. He's a Hall of Famer. Half a sack behind Cam Jordan, and not far behind TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. So to me, it's a no-brainer. If Judon is truly be available for a trade because he's, dead set on holding in, and the Patriots are not interested in changing his contract, whether that's a raise or an extension, I feel like a trade for the Falcons would be a no-brainer. Now, when it comes to the financial side of this, Judon, like I said, has 1 year left on his deal. He's got a base salary of $6.5 million. Whenever you're talking about trading for a player, it's never super simplistic, but just a starting point for anyone, like trade for dummies, look at the base salary. That's what a team would be taking on, what he is due for the next 18 weeks, because players get paid by the week in the NFL. So $6.5 million divided by 18, like that's his paycheck every single Sunday this upcoming season. A lot of times, like bonuses and things like that have already been paid out before the season gets here. So you're only really looking at the base salary. $6.5 million is not a huge chunk of change to take on. The Falcons can make that happen. So don't give me any BS of it's too expensive. They can't afford it. Don't look at $14 million and think the Falcons can't swing that. Yes, they can. We're looking at $6.5 million, ladies and gentlemen. Do it. Please. Sometimes with trades, if you ever feel like you can't make up your mind, I like to just play this game of close your eyes, and if I saw a notification on my phone that said the Falcons or insert team traded for blank, what your reaction would be. If the answer is fuck yeah, then do the trade. And my reaction to this would be, hell yeah, do the trade. This would be a great pickup for the Falcons defense going into the season. So far, Kirk Cousins and the offense have been slicing and dicing the defense. How much more does Raheem Morris need to see? And keep in mind, usually in training camp, like the first week, the defense tends to win a little bit more than the offense because the offense is still kind of getting into a rhythm. They need to break the huddle. They need to execute the play. There's a lot of moving pieces, whereas the defense can kind of just play backyard football. Then once the offense gets into a rhythm, they start to get comfortable. Then it tilts into the offense's favor. The offense has been torching the Falcons defense so far through training camp. Go get another defensive star like Matthew Judon. Now, what would it cost, like trade capital-wise? I think this is a rough idea. 2026 fifth-round draft pick. I don't think the Patriots are going to get a whole lot for a guy on the last year of his contract, coming off an injury, and cat's out of the bag that the two sides are not really seeing eye to eye on a contract. The Falcons don't have a fifth-round draft pick in 2025 to offer, so New England will have to wait till 2026. So I'll turn it over to everyone watching right now. Would you do this trade? For me, it's a no-brainer. Why for yes 100 times below? Let me know your thoughts, though. I always love to hear from all of our viewers. Give me a yes or no when it comes to trading for Matthew Judon. Unless I'm speaking Mandarin, I'll say it one more time in English. Yes, with no second thoughts on trading for Judon. I mean, just think about the defense for a moment. Visualize this with me. Start from the front, work to the back. Matthew Judon, Grady Jarrett, David Onyemata, Arnold Ebiketie. Like, that's your front four, outside linebacker, and Grady Jarrett and Onyemata in the middle. Two great run stoppers, and then two ferocious pass rushers on the edge. Inside linebacker, an excellent trio, one of the best in my opinion. Caden Ellis, Nate Landman, Troy Anderson. DBs, I'm not going to try and sell you guys a bunch of magic beans. We have some question marks opposite of A.J. Terrell. Hopefully those can get resolved. Safeties, you got the best safety in football in Jesse Bates. So you've got Pro Bowlers at all three levels essentially. Bates, Terrell, Judon, Jarrett. This might not be a top 10 defense. This might not be a defense that you see get drafted in your fantasy football league. But it's going to be a defense that can just do its job. And you know what the job is this year? Hold the opposition to 21 points. Because the offense under Kirk Cousins, at least the last 4 years in Minnesota, averaged 25 points a game. And with Judon on this team, I think that defense is capable of achieving that job. The job is not to be the 85 Bears. It's just don't screw it up. And I like my chances with Judon on this defense to not screw it up. All right, next up on the show, I want to talk about Kyle Pitts, who has been dominating training camp so far. We'll share some clips, some highlights, some really cool stuff that you guys want to see. And we'll talk, I hate myself for doing this, fantasy football. But before we get to that stuff here, today's show is sponsored by Game Time. If you love summer baseball and want to catch a Braves game, maybe see Jorge Soler back in person, or any other major league team, you're going to want to give Game Time a shot. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. Now, one thing I really like about Game Time are their flash deals. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Plus, they offer the Game Time guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's talk Kyle Pitts to kind of wrap up today's episode. I know that every single fan base is going through somewhat of the similar feeling or phase of training camp starts. A couple of star players kind of get some really nice highlights, and everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid on all their star players. And I don't think that's a bad thing to do because we've been waiting for some type of football content for so long that we get our first taste of it. it's kind of like when you're really parched and you just chug a whole bunch of water. Like, your stomach might hurt later on, but in the moment, it feels great. And I won't be lying if I said it didn't feel awesome and great watching some of these Kyle Pitts highlights from training camp. I mean, just watch what he's doing on these players, winning in a variety of ways, corner the end zone, jump ball, winning right off the break. Kyle Pitts has been a star so far in training camp. If we're ranking the stars of training camp, number one, I'd say, is Kirk Cousins, and number two is Kyle Pitts. So Kyle Pitts, I think there is a lot of upside to him this season. There are a couple of reasons why I'm buying in on Kyle Pitts. But first, let's look at the stats, because through 3 seasons, sure, it hasn't been what we all hoped and thought it would be as a top 5 draft pick. Now, I think there's some reasonable explanations for some of the downtime. 2022 never got into a sync or a rhythm with Mariota. Then a knee injury against the Bears in November knocks him out for the rest of the season. 2023, it definitely felt like in the early goings of last season, he was still recovering from that knee surgery. But this year, he looks very good. So why should you buy Kyle Pitts' stock? Because, I mean, it's been kind of 2 to 3 fantasy football drafts getting burned by Pitts in rounds like 2 through 4. Reason number one, he's 20 months removed from that knee surgery. That is a lot of time for an athlete to get back to where they were before. And sure, last year there was a point where he was somewhat out of the woods for that knee injury. But once he kind of got out of the woods from the knee injury, he found himself in the middle of just organized chaos on offense when it comes to Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ridder and a whole bunch of turnovers and not a very consistent passing attack and an inconsistent run game. And altogether, it was just a little bit of an organized shit show offensively. So those 2 reasons were legitimate reasons for why Kyle Pitts never really lived up to expectations. The knee surgery, it lingering for a little bit longer than hoped for, and now a dramatic improvement at quarterback. I'm buying in on Kyle Pitts this season. But the ultimate question that I wouldn't say everyone is asking, but deep down, everyone is asking, will Kyle Pitts disappoint in fantasy football this year? Like, that is what everyone is kind of hoping to answer, because whether you want him in your league or you are just someone in the back of your mind thinking, is that someone worth drafting? I'm going to do my best to answer that question. First, let's look at the fantasy football average draft position at the tight end position for this upcoming year in fantasy leagues. So the first tight end going is Sam LaPorta, 24th overall. I was very surprised to see Trey McBride going second. Now, it's a little bit skewed because these ADPs are an average of 3 different sites, so we get a good wide net sample size. And some of them have Travis Kelce going 2, some have Trey McBride going 2, but on average, McBride is going before Kelce. Mark Andrews at 4, Dalton Kincaid at 5, Kyle Pitts at 6. I think the biggest surprise of all of this is George Kittle is 7th, and then Brock Bowers at 8. Now, Kyle Pitts going 60th overall, so if you're in a 10-man league, we're talking round 6, and to me that sounds like great value. Kyle Pitts, I think, is going to be a big target for Kirk Cousins this year. This is not a roster that features a very deep wide receiver room, and I think we're going to see Kyle Pitts used more as a traditional slot wide receiver, which he basically is, than an actual tight end. And with Drake London commanding the X position, I think we're going to see Kyle Pitts start to feast over the middle of the field, and he'll emerge as a go-to guy for Kirk Cousins. So when you look at the top 3 offensive stars on the Falcons offense, running back, wide receiver, tight end, here are their current ADPs. I mean, Bijan's the second running back going in most drafts, 6 overall. Drake London is wide receiver 14, 21st overall. But there's a big gap down to Kyle Pitts, tight end 6, going 60th overall. And if I had to put down money on which of these 3 players would do the best this year, I'd pick Drake London. But the combination you might get of any wide receiver at 21st overall and Kyle Pitts at 60th might be a better combination than Drake London 21st overall and any tight end you get 60th overall. So for that reason, Kyle Pitts might be my favorite target for all the Falcons in this fantasy football draft this year because of the value of how late you could get him and how I still think he's going to be a really productive player. All right, trivia for today's episode. Since 2010, 4 non-quarterbacks, so take out Matt Ryan basically, have scored 200-plus points in a non-PPR fantasy league for the Falcons, of course. Name those 4 Atlanta Falcons since 2010 to have over 200 points in a season. Take out quarterbacks, take out Matt Ryan, in a non-PPR league. I'll give you guys 5 seconds to think about it, pause the video, really digest the question, because the answer is coming up in 3, 2, 1. Last one to do it, nearly 10 years ago, Devontae Freeman, 243.4 points. Julio Jones that year also putting up a monster number, 239. 2010, we had Michael Turner do it along with Roddy White. So hopefully this year you see that drought come to an end of non-quarterbacks getting over 200 fantasy points for the Falcons, whether that's Drake London, Bijan, Kyle Pitts, or all the above. Hopefully someone breaks that drought for the Falcons.